Now your Bibles are open with me, please, to John chapter number 18. John chapter number 18 and verse number 1. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Kidron, where was a garden, into which he entered, and his disciples. And Judas also, which betrayed him, knew the place, for Jesus ofttimes resorted thither with his disciples. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, cometh thither with lanterns and torches and weapons. Jesus therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto them, Whom seek ye? They answered him, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus saith unto them, I am he. And Judas also, which betrayed him, stood with them. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am he, they went backward and fell to the ground. Then asked he them again, Whom seek ye? And they said, Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus answered, I have told you that I am he. If therefore ye seek me, let these go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled which he spake, Of them which thou gavest me have I lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it, and smote the high priest's servant, and cut off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Then said Jesus unto Peter, Put up thy sword into the sheath. The cup which my Father hath given me, shall I not drink it? Then the band, and the captain, and officers of the Jews took Jesus, and bound him, and led him away to Annas first, for he was father-in-law to Caiaphas, which was the high priest that same year. Now Caiaphas was he which gave counsel to the Jews, that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. Now I'll stop reading there for sake of time. The text is found in verse number 5. Then answered him Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews, standing with the mob. You know, the cry of Moses to the Israelites was, who is on the Lord's side? And I could make that statement today, and I do believe that we would find very, very few people in society that would speak up and say, yes, I am on the Lord's side. Christianity is relatively easy when Christianity is cheap. Christianity is easy when it doesn't cost the believer anything to embrace or anything to defend. But whenever Christianity may cost you a promotion on the job, or it might cost you a position in an elected position, or it may cost you business, and men or women will not do business with you because you are one of those Christians, then I would ask, who is on the Lord's side? I think that the trial and difficulty, the weight, the hardness that you and I have seen since this COVID pandemic, COVID, C-O-V-I-D, Certificate of Vaccination ID 19. And if their plans had gone through, it would now be COVID-23, COVID-22, COVID-23, COVID-24, Certificate of Vaccination ID. The plan was for Moderna and the other pharmaceutical companies to require that men get a yearly COVID shot, like they promoted that men get a yearly flu shot and other so-called vaccinations, COVID. And the results of what has happened in relation to COVID are alarming in relation to the church. Our Sunday school director stood up at Rock Springs Baptist Church, where I'm a member, and made the statement the other day in a Wednesday night prayer meeting that our Sunday school is off on an average of 40% since COVID. Our Sunday school has only recovered 60% of its previous strength. Prior to COVID, our Sunday school attendance now is off by 40%, or is only 60% of what it was prior to the matter of COVID. I think that the difficulties that have come upon society and the hardness and the attacks, the out and out attacks. I mean, it's okay if you're any kind of despicable despot, any kind of pervert, any kind of strange and odd thing you want to be, and you'll be applauded and people will say, that's wonderful, isn't this great? But you let a man or a woman stand up and say, I'm a born again Christian and I know that God created me male, or a woman stand up and say, I know that God created me female, and you say, I believe in a 6-day creation that I read about in the Bible, and they will ridicule you and mock you and hold you up to be the worst kind of strange oddity that society has ever produced. Now, I'll be honest with you, that's difficult for anybody to take. That's hard for men to take and for men to bear up under something like this. And yet we are living now in such an age when it's not time for men to back away and to shrink away from the difficulty. It's time for men now to stand up and to be counted for the cause of Jesus Christ. It's time for men to stand up and be counted. Now, I ask the question, are you standing with the mob? You remember Peter stood with the mob, and Peter slipped in and stood with those and warmed his hands whenever with the unbelievers around the fire. And when questioned about that matter, he said, no, I don't know that man. No, I'm not one of his disciples. I don't know that man at all. There are many religionists. There are many religionists. Just like Judas. Judas could perform miracles. Judas preached just as well as all the other disciples did. In fact, Judas was widely trusted, or they would have never given him the bag with the money in it. If Judas had been untrustworthy, if the other disciples had not trusted him, they would have never given him the bag. Not one of them suspected Judas to betray the innocent blood, and yet it was Judas, nothing more than a religionist, an unsaved apostle who stood with the mob. Now I call to your mind 7 such mobs that I find. Number 1, the modernists who are without conviction. There are men that are standing among the mob of modernism, men that have no conviction. The modernists are without faith in the ancient landmarks. You know, nothing pleases Satan more than for the monster of higher thought or the monster of higher education to destroy the faith of men. I never thought I would arrive at the thought process that I'm having now, but I was always taught, and in my generation, if you wanted to achieve, you needed to go off to college and earn a college degree. And I've been off to school, and I have earned 3 degrees. I have a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate. But my son didn't go to college, and I never thought I would say this, but I'm so glad he did not. And there are many people in society today that are opting to not go to college for various and sundry reasons. And I find myself now saying, I'm glad they have not gone, because these have ceased to be schools of higher learning and have become institutions of higher indoctrination. And we send our young people off to school, and they're raised in our Sunday school, and they stay in Sunday school all the way through high school, and then we send them off to college. And they come back at the first break after the first semester, the first half semester, and they start criticizing the old preacher, and they criticize the Sunday school teacher, and they criticize the songs of the faith, and they criticize those people that go down to the church every Sunday. And before long, and it is an extremely high percentage of our young people that are raised in Sunday school and raised in church. And we send them off to the university, the state university, and some of them, God have mercy, we send off to Christian universities and Christian colleges, and when they return home, they never again are faithful in the Lord's house. They never again are faithful in worshiping with the saints. I've heard men say, look, I went to Christian college, we went to chapel every day, and we went to church and served in church on Sunday, and I'm caught up on my church attendance, and I don't need to go. I've already gone to church more than you have, and there's no need for me to go. And we lose our young people. The modernists who are without conviction. Nothing pleases Satan more than for the monster of higher education to destroy the faith that is in men. While I'm here, I want to say something about the seminaries and Southern Baptist seminaries and some of the independent Baptist seminaries and some of the non-denominational and interdenominational schools. We send our preacher boys off to college to study for the ministry, and they leave fired up, they leave full of faith, they leave full of zeal, they leave with the King James Bible in their hand, and they say, I believe the Bible from cover to cover, and I believe the cover, and the cover says Holy Bible, and I believe that. And after a semester or 2 semesters studying down at the Christian university or the Christian college, they come home questioning the veracity and questioning the authority of the King James Bible. And some of them say, well, I think that the NIV is better, and I think this. Now look, I know what I'm talking about. The years that I worked on my master's degree in 1990 and 1991, and all of my curriculum was Calvinistic, and it was all based in the modern translations. And there, for a period of time in my own ministry, I thought the New Berkeley version was the most accurate translation of the Bible. And I was often to criticize and correct the reading and the rendering of the King James text. Now, I'm here to report to you that I have lived long enough and I've read the Bible long enough to have come to the firm conviction that I believe a King James Bible is a perfect document. There's not a word in the King James Bible that is wrongly translated. But that is certainly not what I was taught when I was working on a master's degree so many decades ago. I know whereof I speak. Now, I have 6 other mobs that I need to deal with in the course of this message, and by the grace of God, I'll pick up with the second one on tomorrow. I hope you'll be listening to the Bright Spot Hour at that time.
Correspondence may be sent to the Bright Spot Hour, Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29602.